inspired and what to say and how confident to sound, and you know, having those stats right there with you. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really.
What did you guys think of just the way, did you notice the pauses in between the phrases she was saying? Right? If you feel confident that I can sell, or that you can sell that house now, would you consider doing it? Or something of that nature. Would you meet with me? Right?
Yep.
All right. We might have a couple of people kind of coming in late. Tell me a little bit about how's everything going on in your world? Everyone safe, healthy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
You can go first, Anna.
Anu?
Yeah.
Good.
Grateful, like I said this morning. Yeah, pretty grateful. And I must say something. Last week, you said by Friday evening or by the weekend, make sure you have a Zoom account. If not, passe. And
Yes.
when you said that, I wasn't too happy, but I went ahead and got the Zoom account. I mean, even, and I also did a practice, invited my daughter, and we spoke. And we not just spoke, we did a video call. So it wasn't bad at all. And then I also had a practice run with Peggy, and it was all good. So thank you for getting me out of my comfort zone.
Beautiful. That's what it's all about. Just trying something that you're not used to trying, because what's the phrase? If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And particularly in this environment, we have to, number one, we have to speak to people in order to get transactions, right? And we're not really allowed to go meet with them in person. And so this really is the only option. But even when, when this is over, this is going to be one of those things that I believe that agents are using to separate themselves from the next guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was on the phone, doing some recruiting and as team leader, I would say something like, are you available, Friday at 11 or Thursday at 3? And they're like, oh, neither one of those is good. And I said, how about right now? Can you hop on the computer right now? 10 minutes right now. And every once in a while, somebody would say, okay, let's do that. Right. And then I would get a chance to see them. I would get a chance to watch their body language. I would get a chance to look at their face while, look at their mouth and look at their eyes and their nose when I was speaking to them, because that's going to tell me all I need to know, right? If they're kind of like, that's like, okay, shut up, dude. Let them talk a little bit, right?
I also, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I also pulled up FMLS and I shared my screen and I showed my daughter a home. So I was pretty thrilled with that I was able to even share my screen. Earlier, I thought, oh my gosh, how does one do this? But it's pretty. And of course, Sam's videos helped a lot as well.
And now you have kind of an upgraded version of confidence, right?
Absolutely, no question.
So somebody says, hey, hop on Zoom, and you know what to do, right? And you're like, share a screen. That's all you want from me? No big deal. Come on. Right? Yep. And literally that's, it's that easy. It's that easy. Just so you know, I just looked up the stats, and this is for the last 7 days. And we might get in the habit of announcing these each day. But right now, in the last 7 days in Metro Atlanta, there's been 2,185 new listings. Okay, 1,857 properties have gone under contract, and 1,968 properties have closed. Okay.
Wow.
So 2,185, 1,857, and 1,968. So there's some really good lines in there, right? If you knew that waiting to sell your home could cost you money, right? Would you consider selling it now? That's like an intelligence question. That's like, if you were out of food and I can give you food, would you like food? Like, yeah, right? That's an intelligence question, right? And the line like, I hear you and I completely understand, right? And I completely understand why you would feel that way. Let me ask you a question. If you were confident that it would be advantageous to sell your home now, would you speak to me about that? Would you meet with me? Would you agree to meet with me? Right? And did you hear how she sounded when she used the upswings?
Yeah.
Didn't that sound weird?
Yeah, like not confident.
No.
Like questioning.
Would
like-
you want to work with a person like that?
No.
So the way I know, this is going to sound like a little cheesy, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like, you know how when a football player practices, they like get in their gear and they throw the football and they practice catching it and running and they practice their footwork and they practice like a blocker like practices the angle at which their shoulder's at and all that, right? And they put on their helmet when they practice, right? And they put on all their pads when they practice. Like they're practicing the super fundamentals about how they move their body and how they concentrate and how they look for cues and all that. Our voice and practicing how we use our voice and when we talk slow and when we talk fast and when we pause and what tones we use, that's like our tool, right? The more you can get great at using language and using your tone, the more opportunities you're going to have. Simple as that.
So was this recorded, Bill? Because I was in Ignite from 10 to 12.
Yeah, most likely it was. Yeah.
Okay. I'll look up the Facebook page. Is that Georgia
it'll
Legacy?
eventually be posted on Facebook. Exactly.
Okay.
And there's one more session left in Ignite?
Yes, tomorrow is the last day.
Okay, cool. Yeah, those 11 o'clock sessions are priceless.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, I plan to from Wednesday.
All right. The 2 o'clock sessions. Give me 1 second. Okay, the 2 o'clock sessions, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Those are Facebook Lives. Andy is going to be hosting those. One day is with Robin Matthews. That's on Tuesday, I believe. Who's a former TL out of Peachtree Road. She lives in Maine now, I think. Super incredible leader. She was the team leader with Andy and Leslie as they built their business. Dick Dillingham is probably one of the most sought after trainers in the entire company. He's on the call on Wednesday. And David Osborne, who is, I believe he owns more Keller Williams offices than any other person in the whole company. And he's going to be on the call on Thursday. His mother is Althea Osborne, who was essentially one of the first agents at Keller Williams, and she makes like over $1 million in profit share a year. It's crazy. He's going to be on the call on Thursday. So those are at 2 o'clock, and I have purposefully not scheduled anything during those times. Today, I appreciate your flexibility. I'm trying to hop on a recruiting call with a team that I've been working on with Aubrey for a little while. That's at 3. And so we're going to do the PC coffee at 2:30 instead of 3, if you guys are cool with that. Okay. Has everyone reported their numbers?
I'll do it this afternoon.
Yeah, I need to do it.
Okay. And Rachel, if you could also report your numbers. I sent a email. I'm trying to remember who was on the call this morning, but I got a request essentially to have like a summary email,
Okay.
just kind of detailing some of the major topics that we covered, if there was kind of any homework assignments or really important kind of quotes or ideas, kind of a reminder about where to find some of the stuff. So I sent that yesterday. Any questions or feedback on that material?
So far, no, but I'll let you know.
Okay. And then the link for reporting is not going to change. So you just use that link every time. And if if the answer is 0, just put 0. Okay. Remember, as a newer agent, time should be spent on 2 primary things and 1 kind of secondary thing once you get some business. One is basically take the amount of time that you've got to dedicate to real estate, however many minutes or hours that is, and roughly half of that time should be spent on the phone or generating business. It should be in your database, checking in with the people that know you. It should be finding strangers that want to talk about real estate. It should be spent finding opportunities and updating data, putting people in your database, these kind of things. Okay, so we talked a little bit. We didn't go too much into this. We'll cover this tomorrow on the morning call. But tactic 4 in the Shift book talks about marketing and prospecting. Have you guys gotten to that point yet?
About half.
Yeah, I looked at it a little bit, and it's just never-ending chapter. So I kind of I did look at it.
So here's the what I find to be interesting. You know, when I speak to a lot of new agents, their first inkling is marketing rather than prospecting. And what they differentiate, they say prospecting is where you go get the leads, and marketing is where you do things to cause the leads to come to you. Right? So marketing is definitely more expensive, but it's usually very expensive, right? That would be like, you know, billboards or social media ads or postcards and sponsorships and these kind of things. And the problem with that is it takes a little while to develop, right? Oftentimes, which means more and more money, right? And it still requires some form of kind of secondary effort, right? It's really most effective when you send out a postcard and then you go knock the door, or you send out a postcard and then they see your ad on Facebook because you've done some specific targeting or something like that, right? And because it is not concentrated on people that tend to have an immediate need, when you do get lucky enough to build a relationship, it's not often an immediate piece of business. Prospecting is the exact opposite. Prospecting is, I'm going to go be aggressive and hunt down this business. And the people that I'm going to talk to are the people that I think have a greater, more immediate need. Those would be like for sale by owners and expired listings, right? Or somebody like a renter, right? So I would encourage you to, I know a lot of you have thought about what marketing ideas you could use, but don't forget that a portion of your strategy should be prospecting. Okay. And by the way, making phone calls to your database is prospecting. Okay, that counts. So I'd spend a portion of your time in your database and updating data or getting referrals or offering your app. You're active. Okay, you're creating opportunities. The second half of your day should be spent learning. Learning would be studying the scripts, watching these videos, right? It would be doing some research on the market. So for example, let's say, so a new wants to she wants to focus a portion of her efforts in the higher end market, right? So you might want to say, what does, I don't know, let's say $700,000, what does that buy you in Buckhead? Does that buy you anything in Buckhead? Or what does that buy you in Smyrna? Or what does that buy you in Woodstock? Or what does that buy you in East Cobb? Or what does that buy you in Roswell, Alpharetta, Johns Creek, Milton, Peachtree Corners, Tucker, wherever else you might consider working, Dunwoody, right? How far does that money go? And how is it tend to be a newer property, right? Or does it tend to be an older property, right? How you doing, Heather? So you're basically going and you're being very strategic and calculated. So an example of how you might spend that time into would be, okay, let's start with $500,000. I'm going to set up a search for $500,000 homes in Dunwoody, and I'm going to look at the list. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing. Let's say 500 to 600,000, that bracket. Here's what it looks like in Dunwoody. Here's what it looks like in Smyrna. Here's what it looks like in East Cobb. Here's what it looks like in Roswell. Here's what it looks like in Duluth. Okay, now I'm kind of getting an idea, right? Now I want to go up. Let's go to 700 to 800,000. Let's do the exact same thing, right? And it may be easier to do it by area and then price. So you say, okay, let's do Duluth. Okay, 500 to 600, 600 to 700, 700 to 800, right? And you're doing research like, how long is it staying on the market, right? What percentage of list price to sales price ratio are these homes generally at, right? Are these properties tend to be older properties, newer properties, right? And you're starting to learn the trends of the marketplace, because it won't be long before you are asked questions that it would be to your advantage to be more familiar with the marketplaces that you're essentially saying you're an expert in. Make sense? So in summary, roughly half of your time should be spent in your database finding and creating opportunities, right? And a very good script for that, by the way, is, hi, how are you? Is there anything I can do to help you right now? Right? Right? Come from contribution. You're not like knocking them over the head with like a paperwork. Okay? You got to earn the right to ask for the real estate business. You earn the right by coming from contribution and asking them what it is that you might be able to help them with right now. Right? I mean, I'm talking little stuff. I mean, like, what if, let's say somebody is an older person and they're really not supposed to leave the house or something like that, right? What if you went over there and set up a Zoom account for them or dropped off some groceries on their front steps? You think you'd have a client for life?
Oh, I love that, setting up a Zoom account for an elderly person who may not know. Oh, love that.
Right. Because now that connects them to the rest of the world, right? I mean, we've got agents that are basically using their Zoom account to set up play dates with their people in their database between, let's say, my kids and one of my clients' kids are using our Zoom accounts to have a play date so I can go for a walk, right? We have an agent that is doing just unique things. She printed out this picture of a house. It was like a drawing of a house, and it was a bit detailed, but it had a lot of like, it was not three-dimensional, but it was like a coloring. It was meant to be colored, right? And she sent that out to her whole database, and she's like, quarantine coloring contest or something like that. And all the kids are coloring this house, and they post it online, and they tag, it's JC Mirabella. They tag her company and pop it online and tag JC in the Instagram post or Facebook post. Have some fun, right? It's the sales will come. This is our chance to build relationships, right? How we behave. Mark Cuban said something the other day. He said the way that companies respond to this situation will affect their brand for a long time, right? So we've had companies that let's use Keller Williams, for example. They're cutting the cost of coaching. They're changing the price of Bold. I mean, there's a lot of things that they're doing, like, it's guys, like, if you've ever been to Family Reunion, it's like Family Reunion every day with the amount of training and stuff they're pouring into us. Okay. And we don't even have to leave our living room for it. If there's also companies, it's no secret, they're being pretty blunt about it. Have you seen the Hobby Lobby guy? I'm not trying to get controversial here, but he basically said, like, you're expected to come to work, and if you stay home, you're going to get docked and all this kind of stuff. And there's another company, the GameStop, same thing, right? I'm not saying they're right, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying it doesn't really, it doesn't appear to be good, right? We live in a 24/7 um, news cycle, and anything that's like slightly not loving and giving right now is getting clobbered. So let's have some fun with it as much as possible, right? Let's communicate positive things, and encourage your clients to interact with you. That's the key. What kind of interaction can you get, right? Now, with that said, I need you to be very clear on something. The market is going to be affected, okay? We're just starting to see the number of withdrawals go up, the number of homes that are pending slow down a tiny bit, active listings slow down a tiny bit. We heard our new active listings slow down a tiny bit. We've heard on the call this morning that's going to happen. I mean, they're saying it's going to get worse, and the worst of it, it's probably going to be about 2 weeks from now, right? There's going to be a lot of people that are incredibly worried. And this is our chance to, what Jackie said, listen intently. Find out what they are concerned about, and then see what you can do to address those concerns without being salesy. Okay? The deeper relationship you build with these people now, the stronger the opportunity will be for you to do business with them in the future when they are ready. Does that make sense? And the more people you have those relationships with, the more opportunities you'll have, right? If I want to go on a date on Saturday night and I ask one woman and she says no, well, I ain't going on a date. But if I ask 100 women, somebody's probably going to say yes, I hope. Does that make sense? At least one person's smiling. Can I get a smile from any of y'all? Okay. As I said, when I'm done with this real estate stuff, I might be a comedian. Is everyone going to come to my first show? All right.
Buy from me, I might.
Anu, bring me a buyer for my townhome in Sandy Springs, and this week I'll pay you 4%. Anyone on the call?
Okay.
Anyone on the call? Okay. Anyway, does that make sense, everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You missed the cue. You know what the cue is? You're supposed to say, Bill, that's a very generous offer. What is the address? All right. Enough of that.
I had a couple of questions, Bill, if you have time. I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a couple of things. I wanted some clarity on the difference between an allowance and closing costs. I know allowance is not permitted anymore, but closing costs, contribution costs, can you just explain a little clearly for me, please? I know we talked about it in Ignite, but I just wanted to.
Yes, so there's a lot of different ways to do that. So let's talk about what closing costs are to begin with. Actually, let me back up and say one other thing. So the purpose of this kind of big group, if you will, is for it to be kind of a catch-all. So we celebrate the things you're doing well. We address the things that you're struggling with. We kind of address any kind of pop-up questions like this. So that's the purpose of these sessions, and it's also going to be the purpose of the coffee sessions. So and the topics that kind of come up more and more often, we can have a longer session about it, or I can make a video about it offline. Okay, so here's basically the deal with closing costs. There are fees associated with buying a home, and there are also fees associated with financing the purchase of a home. Okay, those are referred to as closing costs. So if, let's say I buy a home for cash, and I'm not going to be able to rattle off every closing cost, but I'll give you a rough idea of some. If I buy a home with cash, I still need to do title work. I still need to pay the attorney. I still need to pay the recording fees. And I probably want owner's title insurance, right? I don't need lender's title insurance because there's no loan, right? So every attorney has something called a fee sheet. A fee sheet will specifically lay out for you all of their fees, right? So this is how much title insurance costs. This is how much the title search costs. This is how much the preparation of closing documents costs. This is how much the recording fees cost for the deed and all that stuff, right? So that way you can estimate or really get down really close to the penny on what it will cost to do business with that lawyer, with that transaction now, right?
So is that typically a percentage of the sales price, or is it because it seems the same thing, title
It can
or
get a little tricky when you start to talk in percentages. If I was
roughly?
forced to answer that question, I would say you're probably around 2 to 3%. But there are a lot of variables there. So if you buy a home with
Just a minute.
cash, you're probably, depending on how expensive the home is, you're probably looking at $1,000 to $2,000 because there's limited amount of things you have to pay for. If you then get a mortgage, then there's new things you have to pay for, right? Because now you need lender's title insurance, you need to pay the person who originated the loan. There's even more recording fees. The vast majority of loans are going to require escrows, which are essentially prepaids. So do you want to spend a minute on that? Let's spend a minute on that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so prepaids. So let's say most of us have bought a home. So let's say I'm going to close on a home today, okay? And I'm the new buyer. So let's say I'm buying a home in Fulton County. Okay, Fulton County's taxes are due in either October or November, right? So the full bill for those taxes is going to come out. It's going to come out in the summertime, and it's going to be due in October, November, right? So when I settle up with the seller at closing, I need the seller, when the bill comes, I'm going to be responsible for paying the whole thing, right? However, for the first 3 months of the year, the seller owned the home. So the seller needs to pay me at closing their share of the taxes for 2020, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go off of an estimated tax bill, which is pretty much the previous year's tax bill. And let's just say that, to keep the math simple, so we're a fourth of the way through the year. Let's say the taxes for the year are $4,000. So the seller would give me $1,000 at closing. They're not like writing me a check. It's all accounted for in the debits and credits, right? So that way the seller, when they move on with their life, they've already paid me for the share of the year that they owned the home. Okay. The other big thing that is prorated is HOA fees. Okay. So if it's like in the middle of the month, most likely, let's say it's the middle of, let's say it's today. Okay. So I paid the HOA fee that was due in March back on March 1st. I'm sorry. The seller paid the HOA fee that was due for March on March 1st. Okay. Let's say the closing was last week, just to keep this simple. So I'm going to use I'm the owner of the home for the last week of the month. So technically I owe the seller a rebate for the share of the month that that they didn't own the home and I did. Does that make sense? Oftentimes at closing, the attorney will collect for any bill that is due within 30 days. So they would probably collect April's HOA from me as well. And because I'm going to own the home the entire month of April, that's money that's going to be collected from me at closing.
So HOA is taken in advance. We usually pay for a year, but I'm not too sure whether we pay for the coming year or the past year. Does that vary, or is
most likely, like the HOAs that charge like per year, like a swim and tennis club, for example, generally speaking, they will collect in like January or February, and it'll be for that calendar year.
Okay.
So when you paid, like, let's say last month, and you paid $1,500 or whatever you paid, you were paying for 2020 most likely.
Okay, it's paying in advance. Okay.
So if you then pay, let's say you sold your house now, so 3/4 of the year, the buyer owned the home, and therefore they should pay 3/4 of that bill, right? And so they would give you a rebate for 3/4 of that total amount. Does it make sense?
Yeah. So is the word escrow, is it the same thing as prorate? I'm sorry.
Escrow is essentially the establishment of those accounts. So if I'm the new mortgage holder, so let's say I'm the new mortgage holder, I'm buying the home today. I'm going to give you a very long answer to this, and hopefully it'll give you the clarity you need. Okay. I'm going to, when that bill comes in November, I'm going to be expected to pay the entire thing. Okay. But if I pay let's say I buy the home today, my first mortgage payment isn't going to be until May 1st. So then I just pay May, June, July, August, September, October. That's only 6 times I pay 1/12 of the tax bill, which means I don't have enough money in there to pay the full bill, which I'm expected to pay. So and what I have to do is put enough money into the escrow day one, so that as I'm continuing to make the 1/12 contribution each month, that when the bill is ultimately due, there's enough money there. So depending on what time of year you close will depend on how many months you have to put in there. So for example, if you were to close in December, after the tax bill has been paid, you're not going to have to put that many months in, because you're not going to have to pay the tax bill for another 10 or 11 months. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes.
So the proration, the word phrase proration, that's really just a matter of taking an expense that has either been paid prior to closing or will be paid after closing, and basically saying, okay, who owned the home for what percentage of the year did you own the home for? And the bill is going to be that much of the year for you.
The buyer's share or the seller's share.
Another fee, which every once in a while you see, like sometimes some communities have like master associations. So in addition to like a monthly association, like Martin's Landing is a good example, right? Martin's Landing has a monthly association, and the monthly association fee is dependent on whether you live in a single family home or a townhome or the condo or whatever. And then there's a master association, which is also due. That covers like the Martin's Landing amenities, like, like the sidewalks and the workout place and all that, right? And that oftentimes is paid annually. So depending on whether there's a monthly or an annually, basically everyone settles up. The thing that you don't generally see prorations for is like a termite bond. So let's say I pay $400 for a termite bond for the year, and then the buyer takes over. There's generally not a proration of that. Cool?
Mm-hmm.
So escrows, the escrow account is going to be made up generally of 1 years of 1 years of insurance that you'll pay up front, and however many months of tax prorations are necessary in order to get the account to where it needs to be. And they usually want at least 2 months cushion in there. Okay. Now, another important point to realize is, let's say, for example, I'm the seller and I am closing today. So I have owned the home for 1/4 of the year. I'm expected to bring 1/4 of the tax bill to the closing. But unfortunately, I can't use the essentially 1/4 that I've already been putting into my escrow, right? Because they're not going to close my escrow until they get the mortgage balance paid. So when you're dealing with a seller, you need to remind them, hey, you're going to need to come up with your share of the tax bill at closing, right? So let's say the tax bill is $4 grand. I'm going to owe $1,000. So they're going to take $1,000 from my proceeds as a seller to settle up with the buyer for the tax bill. Then in a day or so, once they get the mortgage paid off, then they're going to say, we don't hold this mortgage anymore. It's been paid off in full. Let's go ahead and rebate the seller the balance of their escrow. So that money would come back to you, plus a little bit. But they're going to have to spot it on the front end. Does that make sense? Any questions on any of that?
No, I just have to process it. And I do have an example of I have a sample settlement sheet, so I can look at it too.
Yeah, that's actually something we should probably do as a group, is going through the
I would love that.
debits and credits for both the buyer and the seller. And you can start to see where some of the prorations are. You can start to see where everyone gets paid. You can start to see where like the recording fees and the if somebody pays like for home warranty and these kind of things. So back to your question about concessions, depending on the type of loan that the buyer gets, that restricts or potentially restricts the amount of concessions that a seller can pay. Okay. I have not researched this lately. The way it used to be was FHA loans. They limited it to what was it? Conventional loans was 3% concessions, if I'm not mistaken, and FHA loans were 6% concessions. So you want to make sure that you understand what type of loan your buyer is getting, because if, for example, you need more than 3% in closing cost, you may not be able to get it. So they may restrict that. Off the workaround oftentimes is when, let's say, somebody is prepaying for a home warranty, or basically buying a buyer home warranty. That oftentimes is not counted because they just give the money to the warranty company. Or if you've agreed to have a, let's say, a painting company get $2,000, or a handyman company that is tending to a list of inspection things, rather than the seller isn't giving the buyer money, they're paying the invoice when it comes. Does that make sense?
So that's why you can't use the word allowance. It's not an allowance. Is that correct?
You could potentially use the word allowance. It's just that the total allowance / concession can't go above a certain percent. And that is going to depend on the type of loan that the buyer is getting.
Okay.
Okay. So that's all the more reason to work with lenders that you have a great line of communication with. Okay. Because our job is complex enough, and we have a lot of other people involved in all the varying tasks that have to get done to keep a real estate deal together. And we need to know that everyone is doing their part and behaving, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why we have to be the ones to make sure that obviously our job gets done, but every once in a while we have to micromanage everyone else's job. Well, when you get into business with people that are great teammates, you don't have to micromanage as much, right? It's like that story I told a handful of you guys a few weeks ago. I said, when I was one of the very first buyers I ever put under contract, this is way back when the market was terrible and we were, every little dollar counted, and we negotiated this, this is a little condo down in Decatur. And the buyer, there was like this really weird sticky thing on top of the fridge, and like this other really weird sticky thing like in one of the cabinets. And my buyer didn't like it, and they wanted that they wanted that cleaned up. And I didn't have a whole lot of relationships at the time, so I asked the listing agent, can you introduce me to your cleaner, right? So I meet with the cleaner, and I was a little cocky back then, and I didn't say this to the cleaner, but I said it to the carpet guy. So the cleaner, I said, look, I want you to come in. I want you to start with that spot. I want you to make that look good. Then I want you to move on to that spot and make that look good. And I'm going to pay you $45. So as soon as you feel like you've earned $45, I want you to pack up and thank you. Right? And she did the whole place head to toe. Way more than $45 worth of work. And we still work together 15 years later. Right? Same day, I met a carpet cleaning guy. This is my daughter, Miriam. You want to say hi? Miriam.
Hi, Miriam. This is Trixie.
What's your dog's name? Or cat's name?
This is Trixie.
Trixie.
Aww.
Does she do tricks?
She does not. She's tricky because she tricked her way into our life. She knocked on my daughter's school door while I was there volunteering. We rescued her. She was not doing good.
She said, I need a home. And then they gave her a home. Okay. Say bye-bye.
No.
All right. Say one more thing and then say bye-bye. Say, have a great day, everyone.
Can I watch a video?
Your mommy can help you with the video, okay?
No.
Yeah.
I want to.
Okay. So that same day,
Boy.
that same day, I met a carpet cleaner because I didn't have a carpet cleaner at the time. And I was kind of a smart ass back then. And I said, I don't have a carpet cleaner, so you're my guy. And until you screw up, and then we're not going to talk again. And he did a crappy job, and we haven't spoken since. Right? So it's so important to get good people on your team. Right? How great is it to have a relationship with, let's say, a general contractor or handyman, where you can send them off the inspection report, and it's like, okay, fix this wood rot, change out this toilet, fix this gutter problem, fix this little thing on the HVAC. You know, you got a long list of things, and instead of calling 5 different vendors, one guy can tell you how much that's going to cost in an hour. That just makes life easy, right? And I can't stress to you enough how valuable that is and will be in the course of your real estate business, right? And even our relationships with Kathy on the loan side and Kern, for example, on the attorney side, right? I call her up and say, hey, we got this issue with the states like this far, you know, probating the will and all this stuff. What do I need to know? And she's like, get this, get that, and ask him this, right? I'm like, whew, gosh, that just saved me a lot of energy. Make sense? So your job is to go find partners that make your job easier. And I know this is going to sound harsh, but if you get into contact with somebody who doesn't do what they say they're going to do with you, it's probably going to be worse with your clients, right? I had a home inspector one time, the biggest property I ever had under contract, didn't close, okay? Biggest home I've ever had under contract. It was 775. So we're doing this. So at the end of the home inspections, what I used to do is have, I would meet the inspector and the buyers would come. And I preferred, and my home inspector definitely preferred, to do the inspection kind of alone, right? No distractions, just let him focus on what he needs to focus on, right? And he's taking notes and taking pictures and writing explanations and all that kind of stuff, right? So at the end, we get together and we do what I call a summary walk, right? So he walks through the home and he says, okay, you're going to see a little wood rot here. This is the fuse that is problematic, right? This is the bush that needs to get cut back. This is the blah, 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 blah. The list goes on. And he shows everything to them in person. He lets them know that, you know, this is a really big deal. This is not this big of a deal, that kind of stuff, right? So we're in the kitchen and my guy says, okay, and he points to the woman, the wife of the couple. He says, you come over here, I'm going to need to show you something. Walks her into the laundry room and says, since you'll be spending a lot of time in here, I want to show you something in the laundry room. And my heart just went straight to the floor. And I'm like, no, you didn't do that. And he did that. And that was the last time we ever worked together. And I looked at him. We had worked together for a couple of years. And I looked at him, I said, not acceptable in any way. And I appreciate everything you've done for me, but we're going to part ways right now. Right? So everyone's they've got to earn their keep. Okay.
So Bill, do you mind sharing your preferred vendors? Is that something? Can we get a? Yeah.
I need
to start building
the
my
office
little
has
team.
a long list that's published on the calendar. So that's everything from
Oh, okay.
Electricians to warranty people to roofers
okay.
to home inspectors, plumbers, HVAC contractors. I could give you a list of about 30 that suck.
So the list on the back of the calendar, are those vetted and preferred?
Yes.
I mean, are those the ones that we can just comfortably
I
give
mean,
to our clients?
Ultimately, it's your choice. But yes, these are people that have been vetted and people that we feel comfortable connecting you with. Right.
So,
Okay.
Bill, one thing you said stands out to me as in some way equally valuable, if not more valuable, than the list of people that you like to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Do you actually have a list of people that you're like, no?
I don't have one written out technically, but I could probably come up with a few. Yeah.
Blacklisted.
Well, I really do think that's valid. If you,
yeah. It's kind of
it's a difficult question in a way, because I know that it's personal for everybody, but at the same time, I worked for a GC for 8 years in Minnesota. My dad's a carpenter. I know what it's like when you get those contractors and you just don't want them to represent you.
That's right.
And as I'm starting out, I don't want to be harmed by people that I don't want representing me.
Right. I mean, you could always post on, first of all, I guess you could send me the name if you're getting introduced to somebody, and I could tell you, hey, I have an experience with this person, or I don't. You could also post it in our community group or on Facebook. Say, hey, does anyone have a relationship with this person? If it's negative, text me privately, something of that nature. We had an issue about 6 months ago where one of our agents called a mold company and felt that the mold company's bid was too high.
Mm-hmm.
And when I asked if he called and said, hey, we also got this bid and yours is a good bit higher, can you help me understand what I need to know here? Why is yours so much higher? And then he went online and like smeared it. And I said, whoa, I took it down and I called him. I said, you can't do that. I said, that is your personal opinion, which you just told me that you have not done any research on. So we have to be careful about that. And you also say, like, what if that inspector, if I said, look, I need you to understand how that was really insensitive to a woman and most likely offensive to the husband. Do you understand this? Right? And he says, I completely understand this. It'll never happen again. Does that mean that like he should be blacklisted from all the people that I'm in relationship with?
No.
I don't know. Right. So it can be a bit challenging. I had a guy, interestingly enough, same guy, and I had given him another chance, and he inspected a HVAC system, and to his credit, it was working that day. Okay, according to his inspection report. Well, a month later, when my person moved in and turned on the thing, it wasn't working. And I called him, I said, this is an issue. He says, my job is to inspect the thing to make sure it works on that day. And it did. And here's the proof that it did. I said, I don't give a damn about that. My guy just bought a home and he went and turned on the HVAC system and it doesn't work. So how are we going to fix this? Right? He says, I'm not fixing it. I said, I need you to understand that I am, and I want my teammates to participate. So I'm going to give you another chance. Are you going to participate? And he says, yes. Right? Because I'm making it right. Mm-hmm. Now, I expect you to help me. And if he had said, I'm not doing that, I'd say, okay, great. Well, you just lost 20 or 30 home inspections a year, and that's fine. That's your prerogative. But I get a chance to support the vendors that I believe in and that help me do my work.
Right.
Right. So make sure that your standards should be super high. Right. They make one slip up about, some political thing or some sexist or racist thing or some just off color comment or cussing or whatever, like you're done.
Right. No, I have an HVAC, a mold remediator that went through our private home, and I wouldn't recommend him to anybody. My ex-husband thought he was fine, but we had very differing opinions on him, and we view things differently. I had experience with a general contractor, and I had feelings of his level professionalism, and my husband was going off of, I think, kind of like the doctor recommended that this is who we go with, and I trust my doctor, so even though I don't like him or his business, he's still who I need to use for my health.
Yeah, I mean, we shortly after I came on as team leader, we had a vendor partner, or really an alliance partner at that time, that we were getting some complaints about, and one of which was actually really serious, and we let them go. And it was a good amount of money that we were getting as a marketing fee. Do not. No. And there was like an allegation of like him coming on to one of our agents. Like it was not good. Mm-hmm. We're done. Because one move like that and it goes in the paper, and I get a call that says, "Hey, you're the team leader of KW Roswell. Would you like to comment on this topic?" I'm like, "No, you fired." Right.
So I guess that's the list. Like, if you feel like there are people, I don't need explanations or anything like that. But if there are people, and I'll respect like not expanding that to other people. I'll use it as a personal knowledge base. But I would love having some of that. Of these are people, avoid.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So Heather, on just a quick reminder on some housekeeping things. When you get the link, or you got the link yesterday, I sent kind of like a summary message or summary email. I'm going to start doing that each week, each Sunday probably. Just send you kind of the highlights of what we've studied and learned about, what classes we like, takeaways from classes, any kind of homework assignments, these kind of things. And then just take that link and report in your numbers. And if it's a 0, just put a 0. Okay.
What do you mean by numbers?
You got an email yesterday, I believe, that kind of summarized a lot of what we did last week in the program. And there's a link on there. It's a Google form, and it asks questions like how many, hang on, I will tell you exactly what it says.
Here, let me look at the email as well, because I saw the request for numbers, but since I hadn't done anything the previous week, I didn't, and I hadn't.
Yeah, you can just do it starting this week. Okay, so the questions are like, how many hours did you lead generate? How many hours did you practice? How many hours did you spend in command? Total contacts, total people that you added to the database, total appointments set, total appointments held. And then I want to separate out the listings. So listing appointments held, listings taken, contracts written. A contract written is when you submit an offer for a buyer, or when you submit an offer for a buyer. Pendings is when the actual property goes under contract. Units sold is once you close, and GCI earned, that's only when the deal closes.
Okay, a lot of that I will not be able to do yet because I still don't have the license process. I'm in limbo. Yep.
So you could still add theoretically people to like an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, and then transfer that into Command once you get all the forms.
I haven't been to Command yet. I don't know that I have access. I don't know what.
You don't have access to it right now, unfortunately, but
I don't even know what it is yet.
So Command is essentially the end-to-end tech platform. So that's going to house your CRM. That's going to house your opportunities to keep track of all your transactions, all of your email campaigns, all of your, you can text and email internally from that system. So once you have all your logins, you'll be able to hop right into that. In the meantime, you can go on the website In Command with Sam, or you can follow some of the Command websites on Facebook and start to watch some videos about what the product can do.
Okay.
And hopefully it will be
homework in my notes.
Yeah.
So what was that website that I can actually go to again?
There is, hang on, let me see if In Command with, all right, you can go to In Command, COMMAND, Command with
the letter
Sam.
N or I-N?
I-N.
Okay.
Command is, Sam Jackson is our Director of Technology for the Georgia Legacy Group, and he's got some videos on that site on kind of intros to Command, like how to do your consumer app and Keller Mortgage and opportunities and troubleshooting and these kind of things. So in a technology orientation as well. So you can start to familiarize yourself with the Command product. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So reminder, we're going to do the Coffee with Bill today, just today only at 2:30 instead of 3. And Marinelli, we're going to hop on our call in a second, right? Okay.
Is the coffee for everybody? Or is that like, what is the coffee?
The idea there is it's just kind of a catch-all. So this is a private meeting room that I always have. It's the same link every day for all of the classes. During that time, the idea is it's kind of like if you need, it's like office hours essentially, right? The professor is in the office. You want to see the professor, you come into the room, right? Any topic you want to discuss, you can discuss. Any questions you have, we can go over it. And based on who's in the room, we'll tend to the people that are there and whatever needs they have. That's kind of the idea. I'm a little light on the schedule for like big meetings this week. And the idea there is I'm trying to schedule a lot of one-on-ones this week. So in that email, also guys, so for Rachel and Heather in particular, make sure that you sign up for a business consult, like a 30-minute business consult, just privately one-on-one, so that we can begin to, start taking everything step by step. Cool.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
All right, anything you need, you please let me know. Just a reminder, we're gonna go over Shift Tactic 4 tomorrow. So Heather, do you have a copy of Shift?
I do not.
Okay, I believe I emailed it a PDF version of it yesterday in the email, and I believe I also emailed a link to YouTube where you can listen to it for free. So we are going through there's 12 tactics one by one, and tomorrow we will be reviewing Tactic 4. Okay, Tactic 4 is on prospecting and marketing, and it is titled Find the Motivated. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Anything you need, we got the WhatsApp communities, and everyone knows how to reach me. So have a great day.
Thanks, Bill. Bye.
Bye-bye.